Let's talk about the Eastern Conference. The Boston Celtics advanced to face the Miami Heat.
The Celtics are the better team. Jayson Tatum, he has grown up.
Smart fakes. Inside, Tatum spins, and he puts it in. Between the legs. No. Horford! The follow! Horford gets by Giannis and throws it down. And one. Al Horford. Snag on a bio with a grown man's jam. Butler steps in for the steal and slam. Jimmy Butler doing it all.
I think that Miami is a little undervalued in the series, but I like Boston a lot in the matchup, and I think there's going to be angles to go both ways.
Well, I'm fired up. How about you two? That was pretty good. I'm excited. Eastern Conference Finals begin tonight. Western Conference Finals tomorrow. Welcome into Heat Check, everybody. Happy Tuesday, May 17th. Heat Check is the show that gives you everything you need to get smart about Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I'll just let you know now. We're here today at 3 Eastern. We're back tomorrow at 3 Eastern to get you set for Mavs Warriors. But Brendan Glasheen, Matt Moore, Raheem Palmer of the Action Network. We're here to break down Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. 8:30 tip on ESPN tonight. Celtics and Heat. Everything we discuss on Heat Check, the picks, data, all of it available in the award-winning Action Network app. Let's not waste any time. We go into best bets for Tuesday. Matt Moore, looking forward to a great Eastern Conference Finals, a rematch of the 2020 matchup in the bubble, Celtics Heat. What do you got for us in Game 1?
All right, I'm going to have the Celtics under 101.5. I lean a little bit towards the total under. I've already bet the total under, which you can find in the Action Network app. But I did notice a trend for teams coming off of a Game 7 where the over hits, mostly because of the amount of points that they give up. So I want to stay away from that side of it. And Raheem will talk a little bit more about those trends in a second. I am going to take Celtics under 101.5 on the team total. And the reason is the Heat are a zone-heavy team. They play the most zone of any team in the league. I'm expecting Eric Spoelstra to deploy a lot of zone versus a very perimeter-oriented Celtics team that doesn't play a lot of inside out and doesn't honestly have a great center to be able to break that. Al Horford can do some damage with his passing and shooting from the nail and from the pinch post, but not at a high level. Boston for the season was 18th in effective field goal percentage against zone defense. That's bottom 5 in the league. They have not been great versus these zone defenses. Meanwhile, Miami also switch heavy in pick and roll situations. They have a lot of really good defenders. Jimmy Butler, Max Strus, even with Kyle Lowry out, Gabe Vincent. They don't have a lot of weaknesses defensively, especially with how good Bam Adebayo is in those big, it was 1-5 pick and rolls. The Celtics faced a Bucks team that quite honestly, they were trying to play drop coverage a lot and it worked early. And then it started to get away from them by the end of that series, and they were giving up a lot of three-pointers. Miami gave up a lot of three-pointers in the regular season, but they've kind of backed off. This is a different kind of team than Boston has faced in the previous 2 rounds. I honestly think that, especially without Chris Middleton, this is a better defense than what the Celtics have seen. So I'll take the under 101.5 coming off of just 2 days rest after a Game 7 for the Boston Celtics.
These are the Boston Celtics that have only hit under that number 2 times in this postseason, Game 1 and Game 3 against Milwaukee. So we shall see. But yes, definitely a different beast here in the Miami Heat that the Celtics face. Raheem, as Matt mentioned, you've got some similar angles on this game, but you're betting it differently, Celtics and Heat, Game 1.
Yeah, I totally think this game is going to be a rock fight. When you look at the Boston Celtics, they come off a grueling 7-game series. A lot of physicality in that series. And I did some work on this a couple years ago because I wanted to look at how teams perform after a 7-game series. I think that accumulation impact really has an impact on the following game and this next series as a whole. So when you look at teams that come off winning the Game 7, they're just 32-49. That's 39% straight up in Game 1 of the following series. So of course we're gonna go with the Miami Heat money line based on that trend. That means, look, if you're fading those teams who come off a Game 7 win, you're hitting 61% of the time. And of course, when it comes to this spread, it's just -1.5. So all the Miami Heat have to do is win, and I think they'll get it done. I mean, look, this Miami Heat team is disrespected as the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and we all know Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the league. When you look at the Heat, during their playoff run as a favorite. They are 64-33, 66% against the spread, and they're 74-23 straight up. That's 76% as a favorite. I know some of those years were with LeBron James and D Wade, but I mean, this Miami Heat team has always had the pedigree. They've gotten it done. So I think they win here against the Boston Celtics team, which comes off that physical series.
Yeah, the pedigree, that's for sure. It leads into my pick, and it's very simple. We'll find out right away about it. Miami first quarter money line at -120. I think both of you made points that back this argument. It's an emotional Game 7 on Sunday at home. Afternoon start. You've got a quick turnaround here. And the Celtics proved, let's be fair, they proved in quick turnarounds from Game 5 to 6 to 7 that they can handle a quick turnaround, bury the previous result, and get ready for the next game. So that's something they did do, but against a different opponent that is rested. Not only is Miami rested, but Matt, you alluded to this on Twitter, I think this morning or yesterday, there is a lot of public love for the Boston Celtics, and I think it's rightful. But at the same time, I think folks are underrating this Miami team. They've been very good at home in this postseason, even in a game at home with Joel Embiid on the floor against the Sixers, because folks are making light of who they actually played so far during their road. The Atlanta Hawks, of course, the Embiid-less Philadelphia Sixers for those first two games in the East semis. Miami 5-1 straight up at home in the first quarter of this postseason. They've got off to great starts. That crowd has been historically electric. I am buying the Heat culture for the first 12 minutes of this basketball game just to get off to a good start. I think it's pretty simple. Miami money line in the first quarter.
Don't mind it. Don't mind at all. I can tell that you're trying to stay away from taking the full game to not go against Boston. I appreciate that from you, Glasheen. That's very smart of you just to be like, just the first quarter. I like Miami off the top. I will add to Raheem's point about Spoelstra. Game 1s specifically as a home favorite. Spoelstra's 13-2 straight up. 13-2 is a home straight up in game 1s. This is not Mike Budenholzer that Ime Udoka is going against. So I am with Raheem on this. I like the Heat money line.
And of course, I mean, Mike Budenholzer, they actually won game 1 in the last series. So
there you go.
On the road. Yeah. Well, I don't know what Matt's talking about. So we're going to move on to the to spin the wheel. Okay, because the wheel tonight's got player props from tonight's game. And if you're just joining us, we're going to have a show tomorrow, same time, 3 p.m. Eastern time, to break down Warriors Mavericks. We're not doing what we've done in previous shows where we'll do a breakdown of the next 2 days. So save your thoughts, folks. Those of you watching on YouTube, we'll have thoughts on Warriors Mavs tomorrow. So the wheel today, player props from just this game, game 1, Boston, Miami, whatever player prop the arrow lands on. Each of us will weigh in on whether or not the prop will go over or under. Matt Moore, you go first. Let's spin the wheel, please. Away we go. Very red, green, some Celtics, that goldish Celtics color in those throwback unis, and some Miami black. Jayson Tatum, assists, rebounds at 11.5. What do you got?
All right, no points here, which is interesting. Tatum actually shoots the best of any of the Celtics versus zone defense, so which kind of got the points on here as well. But I will take the over on assists and rebounds, and here's why. Heat run a lot of switch. I said that, but they're also going to match up Jimmy Butler on Tatum most of the time. And because the Celtics don't necessarily run a ton of pick and roll, they run a lot of ISO stuff with Tatum. With Butler defending him over the last 3 seasons, Tatum has averaged 7 assists per 100 possessions. If we expect a rock fight like Raheem talked about, and I expect it will happen for the series, I think it's going to be an ugly one. These are 2 great defenses, a lot of rebound chances. So we got a lot of rebound chances. I think the pace is going to be slightly up from that Milwaukee series for a number of reasons. Miami's actually played at kind of a moderate pace in the postseason. So I think what we're going to see is like an average enough pace, a high number of assists. Even if I think that there's going to be like a low scoring outcome, I do think the Celtics' natural play style, reversing the ball to the other side for open 3-pointers, does lead to assists for Tatum. And he's going to have a little bit of a size advantage, I think, in most of his matchups on these situations, whether it's Butler or Max Strus, whoever. So I think Tatum's going to be able to grab rebounds. So I'll take the over on 11.5 assists and rebounds for Jayson Tatum.
Real quick, before we move on to Raheem, any concern about Marcus Smart and his status? I guess that backs an over if Smart does not play. Right. Smart is sore, questionable for this game. Marcus Smart for tonight.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that I think it impacts things too much, just because Smart's not necessarily the on-ball primary initiator. That's Tatum. So for me, Smart doesn't affect the assist total. The rebounds, maybe. a little bit, but even then, I think we're going to have enough missed shots to open up the door for Tatum to go over.
Okay, it's a foot injury, by the way, for Marcus Smart. Ime Udoka did speak earlier today, so still remains questionable for this game. Raheem Palmer is next. Let's spin the wheel. 5 other props to choose from. Max Strus, the sniper. He's emerged in this postseason. Duncan Robinson, he might be house hunting at this point with his $14 million salary per year. He's looking for a nice summer house while riding the bench. I'm just teasing Duncan Robinson. But Max Strus, 12.5 points. What do you think?
I want to thank you for helping me make my case for Max Strus going over. I mean, look, Duncan Robinson has been completely thrown into the bushes, and we don't know where he is. But look, Max Strus, I mean, when you look at his averages against the Boston Celtics during the regular season, this guy's averaging 20 points, and he took 17 threes in one game and 9 in the other. Now, I would love to take his over 3-point prop, but that's 2.5 juice to minus 180. That's a little bit too rich for my blood, but I think he's going to get his opportunities to score here. Look, he's taking almost 7 threes per game. And like I said before, he took 17 threes in one game against the Celtics, 9 in the other one. So he's going to be putting them up there, especially when you look at Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. They don't have Kyle Lowry to be point guard. So those guys are going to be operating and, dishing the ball and stuff like that. So I expect Strus to be able to pick up some of those chances to score. So he'll hit some threes. And I like his point total over.
Matt, you got a quick thought on Strus and how he might impact this series?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to depend on Jimmy Butler, right? Can he break down the defense and get the Celtics in rotation? That's going to be the key for both of these teams is can you beat that switch and force them to help off? But look, I think Strus has found enough opportunities, especially Strus is really good about finding them off of offensive rebounds and in transition. That's where Strus does a lot of damage. When you look at the regular season, he was really the guy that I think that they were kind of willing to overlook. And while a lot of times that will get corrected in the playoff scouting report, I do kind of expect for the Celtics, because they've only had 2 days of prep, to maybe come in a little bit underprepared for Strus. I think that's a really sharp call.
Okay, very good. Last but not least, possibly, spin the wheel for me, please. Okay, Bam Adebayo, points and rebounds set at 24.5. Well, looking at Bam Adebayo, you might think, well, he killed the Celtics back in 2020 in the bubble, had a really, really solid Eastern Conference Finals to get to the NBA Finals against the Lakers. But Adebayo in this postseason, while he was very impressive in the first 2 games of the series against the Sixers, notice what happened when Joel Embiid entered the mix. I realize the Celtics do not have Joel Embiid, but it is worth noting, Adebayo against some really, really solid pressure inside, 13 points, 6 rebounds per game in the 4 games Embiid did play in the East semis. The 7 games prior, just under 16 a game, just under 9 rebounds a game. So he clearly flourished. And even with those averages, that's an under 24.5. Everyone's talking about the total in this game, this series, a rock fight, blue and black kind of game where it's going to be bruising inside throughout the course of the series. Adebayo can be neutralized. He also didn't have great games against the Celtics this year. His last game against Boston in the 3 meetings did play all right, did have a double-double, but in previous meetings has been neutralized. I also think, Matt said this, while the Celtics haven't faced anything like Miami, I don't know if Miami has faced a stifling defense like this in Boston. If you're the Celtics, you're coming off denying Giannis. And I know Giannis got his, no question. Giannis was phenomenal in his points, rebounds, assist props, but they made it tough on him throughout the series. I expect Robert Williams to see a role. He was available to play in Game 7 against Milwaukee, was not needed due to the lopsided nature of that game. I think Adebayo is going to be in for a tough night, and the focus of this series to me is going to be the perimeter. Which team defensively can stop the other shooting the outside shot? Boston clearly has proven they need that 3-point shot to get through. Celtics and Heat also 2 phenomenal points in the paint defenses throughout the course of the year. So give me an under on Adebayo points, rebounds.
I don't mind the underplay because if you look at how the Heat are going to play defensively, right, they're going to switch or they're going to play zone, which means that a lot of times Adebayo is either going to be the only guy down low or he's going to be spaced out on the switches. So the rebounding advantage here, I think, probably gets you home. Look, I get it in terms of like, oh, versus Embiid. Yeah, he probably didn't shoot as much versus Embiid. the Celtics do not have Joel Embiid or anything close to Embiid. And honestly, the Heat were getting such easy looks versus the Sixers. They didn't need great games from Bam after the first 2 games. The other thing I would warn here is, while I talked about the Heat playing zone, Boston plays a lot of zone. How do you break that? You can shoot from the outside and just try and break it with pure shooting. An easier way to do it is to hit in the middle of that zone with your big. That's where Bam's really good. And he killed the Sixers there more than he did on the inside. So rebounds, I'm with you on. I'm a little concerned. Like, if he winds up 6-7 rebounds, I'm a little bit concerned that he could still go over here. I mean, if you're Boston, if you're limiting the threes, don't you live without Adebayo scoring a little bit? So I don't necessarily love this, but because of the combined points and rebounds, I'm willing to say it's okay. I do think you're underrating Bam, though. I've been really impressed with Bam and what he's been able to do this season. I think Bam's an impact player. And honestly, if he has a great game, the Heat are going to win this game.
Okay. 15.5 was his points prop. I started there and wondered, well, rebounding wise, I think there's a way Boston can neutralize that. Raheem, you got any thoughts on that? Because Matt clearly disagrees on one of those fronts.
I'm not really strong on either side, so I'm just going to root for you to win.
It's not a side or a total, so Raheem has no idea.
Fair. Okay, very good. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And again, I mentioned off the top, Adebayo, very, very good against Boston in those conference finals a couple years ago. I would like to think, and I don't have my green pom-poms with me, I would like to think the Celtics have vastly improved defensively, and he will be part of their defensive game plan. Then again, who knows? It's different personnel, slightly different personnel from what it was in the bubble a couple years ago. Before we go on this version of Heat Check, we're going to go to a series pick. We're going to ask and figure out who's winning this thing, who's going to the finals, who's representing the East in 2022. Matt Moore, Boston or Miami?
Look, this is a betting show. The Heat are the value.
Yes.
The Heat are absolutely the value.
By the way, real quick, Miami plus 155 on DraftKings to win the series. Boston is the clear favorite at minus 185.
You can get Heat plus 1.5 at a pretty nice number at various books. And I think that there's some really good value on that. I have a number of Celtics futures involved here. So I'm feeling okay. I want to pick Miami. I want to. Like, I've tried to talk myself into it. I don't love this matchup for Boston. I just think the market in particular, I think, is underrating how good this Miami Heat team is. They're the 1 seed. Like, everyone's acted like they're the under. They are without, besides Kyle Lowry, who should return at some point in the series, they are a healthy home team, number 1 seed, favored in game 1. The winner of game 1 wins 80% of the time. Raw picked the Heat. You picked the Heat in the first quarter. And yet everyone's kind of like, yeah, but I think the Celtics are going to win. It goes against pretty much every trend that we've seen, including, got to be honest, the 2020 series. Everyone's going to be like, oh, no, you got to throw that out. The Celtics are way better. Okay, I got 3 months of the Celtics playing great versus I got like a multi-year history of what the Celtics have done, which is sometimes they just have these quarters where they play like the Suns in game 7. Like, they just fall apart. And that makes me nervous, but I can't get there. I'm too much of a coward. I'll take Celtics in 6, but I hate it. I think the value is on Miami. I'm too much of a coward.
Wow, that was a lot of vindication, but also, seek therapy after that.
I'm tortured. I'm tortured,
yeah, really.
Glasheen.
And I mean that in the lightest way, folks. Raheem Palmer, your pick for the series is who?
Okay, I want to say this. I was one of the few people who actually took the Miami Heat to defeat the Boston Celtics in the bubble. I was all over the Miami Heat in that series.
But
I think we saw some fluky things in the bubble that probably won't happen again. Look, I don't think this Miami Heat team has enough offense. This is a team which is just 13th in half-court points per 100 possessions. They're scoring 93 points per 100 possessions in the half-court. I know the Celtics have their half-court woes on their own, but they're still a better offense than this Heat team. Look, we saw before Tatum, Brown, they were kids at that time, and they had Kemba Walker. I mean, Kemba Walker at the time, he was Larry Holmes status. They picked on him. There is no Kemba Walker in this lineup to pick on. I think that the Boston Celtics have grown up. They'll win this series. They're going to lose tonight, but I won't be surprised if they pull off a gentleman's sweep, or this is maybe a 6-game series at most.
I like it. Split in South Beach. They'll sweep them in Boston. Miami gets game 5. Boston in 6. I don't have much else to add other than the fact that I do think defensively we are in for a really exciting. If you're into defense, I hope you are. We're going to be.
I was going to say, I don't know that exciting is how this series is going to be received.
Yeah, but I also, whichever team can guard the three better. In the 4 finalists in these NBA playoffs, all top 4 guarding the 3-point line. It's
going to be a lot easier to guard the 3-point line with the fact that Lowry is banged up. I mean, Lowry is the guy who helps set everybody up. And I mean, Jimmy Butler can do it, but Butler's not a great 3-point shooter. Lowry is. I mean,
he's been a great one in these playoffs.
Who? Butler.
He has, but I'm still not buying it. I'm not. I mean, they played Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks who can't defend anybody. They played Joel Embiid who played with a broken face. James Harden who's Larry Holmes status. Flabby sick. Come on, man. You got to be the real opponent.
Unlike the Celtics, who faced a fully healthy Milwaukee Bucks team.
Man, they had to beat prime Giannis. It's not too many people who have done that.
No, Chris.
It's going to be very close. I think Matt's right. I think folks are undervaluing Miami. That is for sure. With the home court, that is absolutely fair. But at the end of the day, I think if the Celtics, whichever team, if the Celtics continue to guard the 3-point line the way they did against Milwaukee, look, as well as Jimmy Butler has played in these playoffs, don't you admit, Matt, the Celtics are they're going like from a 10 to an 8 in terms of the challenge of the best player on the other team?
Not without Chris Middleton. Well, I mean, in terms of okay, I'll say that. Obviously, Giannis is a 10. I put Jimmy at a 9, though. Look, Jimmy's at 28, 8, and 5 on better shooting than Giannis. I've never been a Jimmy guy. Jimmy's been elite. I did an article this week on Action Network you can find talking about the playoff MVP if we had one. Jimmy Butler was second behind Giannis. The best player, everyone's like, Luka Doncic has been the best player. No. The best player in the playoffs currently still in it has been Jimmy Butler. You can argue that he hasn't played good enough competition. Okay. But Jimmy's been elite, and he's been elite on both ends of the floor. And that, to me, really matters.
Boston's guarded Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Giannis. I think they've got more they've guarded more dudes, more proven dudes here to this point. That's where I go. So anywho, we'll have plenty to react to off the top of tomorrow's show briefly. But let's recap this show and just get in our picks for tonight. Matt Moore, his 3 for tonight. He's got the Celtics team total under 101.5. Jayson Tatum over 11.5 assisted rebounds. He likes the Celtics in the series. Very, very doomed, he feels like. He's in trouble with that pick. So we'll put an asterisk there potentially, but not his futures. Raheem Palmer likes the Heat tonight on the money line. Max Strus over 12.5 points. Celtics in the series. I'm on Miami. I like Miami first quarter tonight. Get off to a good start. Bam Adebayo under points and rebounds at 24.5. And yes, contractually obligated to take the Celtics. I like that. That's going to do it, everybody. Folks, we have another show tomorrow, same time as today, 3 p.m. Eastern time, May 18th, Wednesday. We'll get you set for Warriors, Mavericks, Game 1, also series predictions, best bets for tomorrow night. Anything on buckets we're hitting on in particular this week?
We got conference finals previews up right now. Right now, you can go and listen to me try and talk Raheem Palmer out of taking game 1 for the road team or for the home team in both series and saying that they're both going to lose. And you can listen to me going back and forth with Brandon Anderson on the Boston Celtics and how good they are. They may or may not be. Really entertaining episodes. We'll have lottery reaction tomorrow as well, including some best bets for who's going to be the number 1 overall pick. All that and more. Got you this week on Buckets, wherever you get podcasts.
Excellent. Great work as always, gents. Matt Moore, Raheem Palmer, followed them on the Action Network app. They do a great job breaking down the NBA. For both of those guys, our entire team, Brendan Glasheen. Best of luck tonight, everybody. We will catch you again tomorrow, same time, 3 p.m. Eastern for Heat Check.